The Girl. In Grave Encounters, we follow a TV crew led by Lance Preston, a host who clearly exaggerates the scares on his show just to boost ratings. Their plan is to spend the night inside an abandoned psychiatric hospital known for its supernatural stories. At first, everything feels like another fake TV investigation, until the asylum starts proving that something is very wrong there. While exploring the hallways, the crew spots a girl standing motionless. And then this happens. It's a classic jump scare, but it works because the movie spends so much time building tension beforehand. After that, everything changes, the crew panics, and the hospital starts behaving like a living labyrinth. The police car. In Alien Abduction, the story follows a family traveling through a mountainous region who accidentally find themselves caught in the middle of a series of bizarre events. Everything is filmed by Riley, the youngest son, who carries a camera everywhere, and that makes the movie even more unsettling because almost everything is shown from his perspective. Near the end of the film, Riley and his sister Jillian manage to survive the chaos in the woods and finally reach a road at sunrise. But there's one terrifying detail. They realize they've returned to the exact same tunnel where their father disappeared at the beginning of the movie. In other words, they never really escaped. And just when it seems like help has finally arrived, a police cruiser appears on the road. The officer puts both of them inside the vehicle and tries to call for backup on the radio. Then this happens. Moments later, the aliens attack the cruiser, and Riley's camera captures both of them being violently pulled into the sky. But if we're talking about found footage movies, it's impossible not to mention the next film on this list, The Dragging. In Paranormal Activity, the story follows Micah and Katie, a couple who begin documenting strange events happening inside their own home. Micah sets up a camera in their bedroom at night to prove that something paranormal is stalking them. And when the famous Night 20 arrives, the movie delivers one of the most iconic scenes in found footage history. While they sleep, the camera shows Katie's feet slowly beginning to move on their own. Seems minor, but it's exactly the kind of detail that instantly makes people uncomfortable. Out of nowhere, Katie is violently pulled out of bed by her feet and dragged down the hallway while screaming in terror. Micah wakes up completely confused and runs after her into the darkness. And the scariest part is that the camera never leaves the bedroom. You only hear the screaming and the chaos happening off screen. Micah eventually brings Katie back into the room, where she breaks down uncontrollably. But this isn't even the most disturbing scene involving Katie. There's an even worse moment with her, and we'll get to that very soon. The Cave. In The Taking of Deborah Logan, everything begins as a documentary about Alzheimer's disease. A film crew follows Deborah, an elderly woman suffering from the illness, while her daughter struggles to care for her. But little by little, Deborah's behavior starts becoming increasingly strange, and the movie slowly transforms from an uncomfortable drama to a complete nightmare. Near the end, the crew discovers that Deborah has kidnapped a young girl and taken her deep into a cave. Once they enter, the movie practically abandons any remaining sense of safety. Eventually, their flashlight finds Deborah together with a girl, and the image is deeply disturbing. Deborah begins dislocating her own jaw, almost like a snake opening its mouth to swallow its prey whole. The Return. In Paranormal Activity 4, the story takes place several years after the previous films. After kidnapping her nephew Hunter and disappearing without a trace, Katie reappears living quietly near a new family. The movie follows Alex, a teenager who starts noticing strange events involving the mysterious neighbors. At one point, Alex leaves her boyfriend Ben alone in the house. He walks into a room and sits down at the computer. The laptop camera remains recording everything from a wide angle. While Ben is distracted looking at the screen, Katie suddenly appears behind him in complete silence. And that entrance is terrifying precisely because she doesn't come running or screaming. She simply stands there and does this. Then she casually drags him out of frame as if it's something she does every day. The Fall. In VHS Beyond, the segment Live and Let Dive takes an already terrifying idea, skydiving, and turns it into complete alien chaos. The segment follows Zach, his wife, and a friend as they board a plane for a celebratory skydive while everything is being recorded. Everyone is simply getting ready to jump as the plane climbs higher. Then suddenly, a UFO appears in the sky at incredible speed and flies directly through the aircraft. The plane practically explodes instantly, and the segment does something incredibly clever here. It turns freefall into a found footage airplane disaster movie. The characters begin plummeting through the sky alongside burning pieces of the aircraft while desperately trying to deploy their parachutes in the middle of the chaos. What makes it even more impressive is that the entire sequence feels like one giant continuous shot with almost no visible cuts. The scene is unbelievably stressful because the character keeps falling farther and farther with seemingly no way to stop what's coming. At that point, all he can do is accept the death getting closer every second. But almost at the last possible moment, the parachute opens and Zach survives. The Tunnel. In Cloverfield, everything begins as a normal party in New York until a gigantic monster attacks the city in the middle of the night. And what makes the movie unique is that all of the destruction is shown through the handheld camera of HUD, one of the group's friends. After escaping the initial attack, Rob and the others decide to travel through the subway tunnels to reach Manhattan safely. But this section of the movie basically turns into a claustrophobic horror film. The group walks along the tracks in complete darkness, while HUD uses the camera's night vision mode just to see where they're going. And that choice makes the sequence much more uncomfortable because the audience can barely see what's hiding in the darkness until the creatures finally appear. Several parasites that fell from the body of the main monster begin attacking the group inside the tunnels. They're fast, aggressive, and almost impossible to see clearly because the camera never stops shaking. During the chaos, Marlena gets bitten by one of them. The four manage to escape the tunnel and are eventually found by soldiers who take them to a field hospital. But Marlena doesn't survive. The 40 minutes. Host from 2020 took an extremely simple idea and transformed it into this: a seance happening entirely via Zoom. And the scariest part is that the movie lasts almost exactly as long as a free Zoom call. Yep, the famous 40 minutes. The story follows a group of friends messing around with a paranormal session during quarantine, but one of them invents a fake story in the middle of the seance.
Gemma, you're a psychopath.
Nothing was happening.
And accidentally attracts a real entity. From that point on, the movie becomes complete chaos through webcams, phones, and laptop cameras. By the end, almost everyone has either died or disappeared in bizarre ways inside their own homes. The last survivors are Haley and Gemma. Desperate, Gemma breaks quarantine and goes to Haley's house to help her in person. The problem is that the demon has already taken over the entire place. The two try locating the creature using flashes from a Polaroid camera, and visually it's a brilliant idea because each flash reveals tiny pieces of the house for only a fraction of a second. The tension becomes unbearable. Every time the light flashes, it feels like something is standing a little closer. Then it finally happens. The free Zoom call reaches its time limit, and the credits immediately begin rolling. The entrails. In the Borderlands, also known as Final Prayer, we follow a team sent by the Vatican to investigate supposed miracles inside an isolated church in rural England. The group records everything as part of the investigation, so the entire movie follows a more grounded found footage style. But the ending completely transforms the story. After several strange events and disappearances, Deacon and Gray discover hidden tunnels beneath the church and enter them searching for their missing colleagues. The problem is that the passages are unbelievably tight, and the cameras attached to their heads make everything feel even more claustrophobic. As they continue deeper, the walls begin changing. What originally looked like damp stone slowly develops a living texture, almost like pulsating flesh. Little by little, they realize this isn't a cave at all. It's literally the inside of some gigantic creature hidden underground for centuries. A kind of ancient pagan god that has been sleeping beneath the church. When they attempt to turn back, the tunnels begin closing behind them like contracting muscles. There is no exit. The entire place is swallowing them alive. A corrosive liquid begins dripping from the walls while both men panic. Then the screen slowly fades into darkness. And the worst part is that the movie ends with nothing but the sound of their screams. The attic. In Rec, reporter Angela Vidal and cameraman Pablo accompany firefighters during what appears to be a routine emergency call inside an apartment building in Barcelona. But the building is suddenly placed under quarantine after several residents begin behaving in extremely violent ways. For most of the movie, you're led to believe it's simply another zombie infection outbreak, until they reach the apartment on the top floor. After surviving the chaos throughout the building, Angela and Pablo manage to hide inside a dark penthouse filled with notes, tapes, and newspaper clippings. That's where they discover the truth. The virus is actually connected to demonic possession and Vatican experiments involving a young girl. The entire atmosphere of the movie changes at that moment. While investigating the dark apartment, a loud noise echoes above them. A trapdoor leading to the attic slowly opens by itself. Pablo points the camera upward and gradually illuminates the space. Then suddenly, something charges directly at the lens. The impact destroys the camera light, plunging everything into total darkness. Pablo switches to night vision, turning everything that unsettling green color. And that's when a horrifying creature appears, extremely thin, abnormally tall, terribly deformed, slowly moving through the apartment. The creature attacks and kills Pablo, and when Angela finally appears crawling desperately toward the camera, well, the ending of that scene became horror history. The Bench. In the 2014 film Creep, the story follows Aaron, a freelance videographer hired to record what is supposedly a farewell video for Joseph, a very strange man who claims to be terminally ill. The problem is that as the movie progresses, Joseph becomes increasingly disturbing.
Hello, my name is Peach Fuzz. I might look like I eat you up.
and the ending delivers one of the most uncomfortable scenes in found footage horror. After weeks of being stalked and receiving bizarre DVDs at home, Aaron agrees to meet Joseph one last time in a public park. Joseph sends him a video claiming he wants to apologize and make amends. Aaron, already traumatized, believes that at least in a crowded public place he'll be safe. So he brings his camera, sits on a bench overlooking a lake, and keeps his phone ready in case he needs to call the police. And here's where the scene becomes brilliant. The movie trains the audience to expect a classic jump scare from the front. You find yourself scanning the distance alongside Aaron, waiting to spot Joseph approaching. But the real danger was never there. Without making a sound, Joseph walks up behind Aaron carrying an axe and wearing his wolf mask. Aaron never notices. Joseph simply approaches and delivers the fatal blow before Aaron has any chance to react. The worst part comes afterward. The movie shows Joseph calmly watching the footage at home while explaining that Aaron never turned around because he still believed there was something good inside him. And there's even time for one final jump scare. The Cave from Hell. In as above, so below, archaeologist Scarlett leads a group into the Paris catacombs, searching for the legendary Philosopher's Stone. But the deeper they go, the more the place begins to resemble a literal version of hell. The tunnels become increasingly terrifying. Strange figures appear in the darkness, and each character is forced to confront their deepest traumas. Near the end, George is severely injured following a supernatural attack. Desperate, Scarlett attempts to use the Philosopher's Stone to heal him, but nothing happens, and that's when she realizes the horrible truth. The stone she's been carrying throughout the entire movie isn't the real one. She understands that this mirrored version of hell operates in reverse. The real stone never left the original chamber, so Scarlett must run alone all the way back through those tunnels. This sequence becomes pure claustrophobic chaos. When she finally reaches the golden chamber, she places the stone back exactly where she found it. And at that moment, she realizes something important. The power was never inside the stone. It was inside her. As Scarlett races through the tunnels, she encounters manifestations of her own guilt, including an apparition of her father, a man who died years earlier. But this time she doesn't run. She stops, embraces him, and asks for forgiveness. The movie literally turns guilt into a physical obstacle. After that, she runs back to save George. The Endless Loop. In 7 Nights of Darkness, a group of contestants joins a paranormal reality show inside Madison Seminary, an abandoned asylum supposedly haunted by ghosts. The goal? Survive 7 nights and leave with the cash prize. Of course, things go wrong very quickly. By the final minutes, only Carter and Brooke are still alive. After spending days hearing strange noises, seeing apparitions, and being hunted by entities, they realize there is no way out. The asylum seems to literally close in around them. Then comes the final attack. In the darkness, the ghost woman finally appears. The camera starts malfunctioning while the two desperately run through the narrow hallways. You can hear screams, objects crashing, and footsteps coming from every direction. Game over. Nobody wins the prize. But it doesn't end there, because the movie still has one final surprise after the credits, and it's the part that left many viewers the most uncomfortable. The scene shows Carter reappearing inside the asylum as if the movie has restarted from the beginning. Little by little, it becomes clear that he never escaped. He's trapped inside a supernatural loop within Madison Seminary.
Don't go in!
On screen right now is a video where we show the cruelest fates worse than death in found footage movies. Click and watch. See you there.